be so kind to sit here on this lovely sofa, I must say, then it gives me some time to introduce the other panelists. On this part of the sofa, we have reserved for Dr. Koen van der Bocht, who is a vascular surgeon. Yeah, please come forward. He's affiliated with as a vascular surgeon / researcher for LUMC and HMC. Big round of applause for Koen. Yes. This seat is reserved for Dr. Alireza Etofagyan, who's head of business intelligence at Operos Health and AT Medics at the UK. Hello, please welcome. Professor Tilo Eldabi, who is a professor of business analytics and digital innovation, I must say, at University of Bradford, UK. If you please be so kind to join us as well, you get a big round of applause. It almost feels like the Oscars, right? And the Oscar goes to, yeah, I'm loving it. This seat is reserved for Dr. Davor Olic. He's Chief Operating Officer at the International Research Center on AI under the auspices of UNESCO. Big round of applause also for Davor. Welcome. And here we have, yes, on this side we have Dr. Esther de Jonge, who is a senior researcher, of course, with the Data Science Research Group here at THUAS. Big round of applause for Esther. Such a lovely panel, don't you think? And also, I must say, there were two other wonderful persons that we had invited to join us for this panel, and I'm speaking to them, hopefully, because they're watching on the live stream. They were two Pakistani professors, two wonderful academics who would have loved to be here, and who, of course, were invited, but somehow, because of visa trouble, it couldn't come through. So I want to acknowledge him, Professor Saad Ahmed Kazi and Professor Saad Nazim Zafar, both from two different universities from Pakistan, but let's give them a big round of applause because we know they're watching. Thank you, hopefully next time. And somehow, because of the seating arrangement, we have like the health side of the panel and the other side. I want to start with the health side, if you don't mind. We're going to talk about AI data science for society, and then I don't think we have to convince anyone that that is a good thing to use AI and data in a healthcare setting. So I want to talk about what's holding us back, but not before. We've looked at a video that Koen has brought with him. Is there anything you would like to say before we look at that video? Oh, and I was told that we have microphones. Yes, so please, the switch needs to be up.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation, and congratulations again. I think this video tells us something about the tsunami of diabetic patients, which is reaching us at this point, not only in The Hague, but also in the entire country, in the entire world, and the challenges we have to deal with. And then I think after the video we can talk about the role of AI and machine learning to help us.
Let's do that. Let's look at the video.
One of the problems we are confronted with is the greatly increasing number of diabetic patients. And a complication of diabetes is blood vessel disease, especially in the lower leg. This leads to a decreased vascularization of the foot and the occurrence of wounds. And these wounds may not heal properly, and this may lead to amputation. Every 30 seconds worldwide, one diabetic patient loses their foot. This is the reason why we consider a diabetic foot a vascular emergency, and we treat the blood vessels immediately. Unfortunately, and this is the exact reason why research is so important, we lack the understanding in which patient the treatment will be successful and in which patients an amputation may be a better alternative at an early stage.
AI algorithms can help us select the best combination of these imaging and sensing modalities we have available these days in order to come up with a new generation of diagnostic tools for this disease. And that will benefit, of course, the lives of the patients as well as the healthcare systems.
So for this research, Veerle here already collected a large number of very high quality data. It includes, for example, data on lifestyle factors, treatment and care of diabetic patients. And therefore we would also like to use a combination of techniques, for example, prediction modeling to identify clusters of patients and to predict complications.
So before conducting our own research, it's important to find what has already been published in this field. Therefore, together with students from the Hague University, we looked at all available literature regarding diabetic foot ulcers, and we identified two types of data that can be analyzed in order to determine the likeliness of developing these ulcers, namely textual data and image-based data. From reading the literature, we identified the best algorithms that can be used to make these predictions, and the next step is to develop these algorithms further or to come up with better algorithms of our own.
On a global level, the use of artificial intelligence can help to predict the chances of diabetic foot ulcer healing. It can determine the value of endovascular or surgical revascularization for an individual, and it can help to predict the likelihood of preventing major amputations.
Such a great use case, I would say. Koen, what's the status? Is it conceptual? Is it already in use?
It's already in use. You've seen a couple of things in this video, I think, from local to global. If you talk locally, the patient itself, there are all patient factors which you have to take into account, other diseases, all with their own classifications, then wound classifications, which is already free with sub-classifications. So basically, especially for a surgical brain, it's too much to understand. So we need the data scientists to help us with that, and we're doing that right now. And then we're looking at the wound perfusion. You've seen state-of-the-art imaging techniques. We're comparing all kinds of techniques, which some of these techniques just give us pixels, and we don't know what these pixels mean. So it's another part, we need to understand that, and we need machine learning to help us with that. And then zooming out, we're looking at where do our patients live, what are their demographic factors altogether, which patients or which groups of patients or groups of inhabitants in The Hague are at risk, and then even more in the Netherlands, so we go slowly to a global level.
Sure.
And what treatment is feasible for this patient, what is clinically feasible and also economically feasible, because these treatments are very expensive. And then we're in the Netherlands, but what happens if you live on the other end of the world, where not all treatments are available?
Right.
And we're doing all these things together, so multiple projects. It's going very well so far.
Very impressive. And you mentioned patients. Sonny, you mentioned e-patients. How do patients typically react when the doctor says we're using AI and machine learning and data to treat you better? If you could pass the microphone to Sanne, thank you.
Oh, I don't know about that, because maybe that's a question for my colleague here. But we know that some patients go to a general practitioner or a hospital, and they come with already a list of treatments they know that exist, and say, well, I want this treatment. But sometimes, or the health insurance company doesn't pay for it, or it's not suitable. But much more often, I think, the patients listen to the specialist, and they take it for granted, or they think that's the most suitable treatment for them. But I think, as shown in this video, but also in the other video about skin therapy, there are so many factors that influence the outcome of the treatment. And, we all know there's a lack of health professionals, a limited amount of time.
Right.
So if there are techniques that help them make a better decision, it's beneficial for the healthcare industry, but also even more important for the patients themselves.
Sure, yeah. And Alireza, I see you are head of business intelligence, so that's not AI or it's BI, right? Yeah, you also have a microphone. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this topic.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Shall I start with the presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So if that's a chance, I can have the control.
Yeah, we know who's in charge of the clicker.
Yeah, so I came really prepared for the talk. So when we talk about data analytics, business intelligence, the ultimate mission for any solution to connect business with data. And the question is how we merge, how we link business and data, and we fill the gap as such. So sometimes solution is like finding a needle in a haystack. It's not really simple when you work in organizations, in a mega scale organizations, and we have to provide a business analytics solution to bridge the gap. But when we gather the data, when we talk to technical team, the picture often is like this. So we have to go through several complications, business requirements and rules to come up with a solution. And then eventually, when we deliver the solution, it sounds to be really obvious. So well, the middle was so big and we found it. But in reality today, I would like to talk to you about the business intelligence solution we developed in-house, challenges, approaches, and also the benefit. I try to back up this presentation with a recently published paper with Head University, with Lampros co-authorships, and Oxford University, and Surrey, my academics colleagues in the university. And to create a concept of the presentation, we have measures in the first place. So I quoted Edward Deming's statement here that if we don't measure it, then even don't bother to manage it. So the first scope for our work is to have a data definitions, all of our measures in one hand, and also a repository of what we eventually want to monitor. And then the second principle is the technology. So now we are working and living in the age that the AI technology is more democratized thanks to the cloud architecture. But the technology should be less disruptive, compatible, and also scalable. We can't create anything that is not compatible or tailored to any aspect of business. It has to be less disruptive. And also the end users, getting the end users' acceptance and how they engage with the technology, that would be the key part to any solutions in their scope. So we talked about the challenges today, and data availability, particularly in the scope of NHS, is about how we gather the data, how we process the data governance, and data obviously is not in one place. Data is scattered across several sources. And also diversity of KPIs. Each organization has got several and vast majority of the KPIs, key performance indicators, how they have to be managed, monitored centrally, so on and so forth. And also the stratification of the data. The data sets that we are providing or we are working, are they adequate for the work we are working or the solutions we're providing or not? And then interoperability, that's the key problem we found in healthcare, particularly in NHS, that how we can query the data across several data sets when the clinical codes are coded differently within the system. So the EMS is one of the major vendor, clinical system vendor in the primary care. So they used to have a different coding mechanism, and then TPP is another major player in the game. So they have their different standard, but as of April 2020, they use SNOMED code CT. So that's a standard coding schema we have in several clinical systems. It creates us lots of challenges to convert our codes to the SNOMED, but again, we have a standard mechanism now. And about the company, so my name is Ali. I'm from the head of business intelligence of AT Group's Opus Health. The company is the largest care provider to the NHS. As part of the company is the care provider. Along with providing the care, we focus on digital transformation across the NHS, and we accelerate the innovation in this scope. So two products are the key product we have at the moment. One is the Doctor IQ, it's the online consultation platform, several potentials of deploying AI, and also Easy Analytics, which is the platform I would like to take you through that. It's challenging to finish it in 5 minutes, but I will do my best. So apologies if I skim through the slides. So the company size, we have 620,000 patients, which is, well, now we are confident to talk about big data. These platforms are digesting more than 5 million aggregated patient data. So it's quite massive, the scale of the work. And also Easy Analytics, which is the business intelligence tool. The journey has started back in 2015 with the University of Surrey. It was a KTP known as a Knowledge Transfer Partnership Project, partially funded by the Innovate UK, University of Surrey, and AT Medics. So at that time, we had the academics team, Lampros, and the rest of the academic team to help us with the knowledge of the project, as well as AT Medics as the business host. And then the first challenge for us was to gather the data and cross a unified form of business intelligence solution. After 2 years, we commercialized it as Easy Analytics. And then the second KTP, which makes our organization is one of the unique organizations in the market, that we have 2 KTPs with 2 outstanding results with Anglia Ruskin University, and then later on machine learning aspect, which that's the screenshot of the modular platform we have for the different scope of the work. And then the approaches, as you see, is a platform for injecting data and inserting data from various sources, clinical systems, government sites, national sites, and as well as the business systems. We use Azure cloud-based technology, and then simultaneously we provide data for our business intelligence dashboard and external reporting. So, well, the benefits of the tool is vary, and I try to back it up with a recent publication we have, particularly in healthcare. One was the AI use cases we have for automatically de-risk patients on the anticholinergic drugs. Also, the diabetes care prevention and aid care processes we had, which help our organization to deliver the extraordinary results in long-term condition management, as well as the flu vaccination. We could use 34% increase in the number of jabs we gave in relation to the flu. And then lastly, the project we use for the frailty index in the scope of frailty index and prevention in the UK. We are at the front line of the healthcare system. So this solution is not anymore a research topic or academic talk. It's basically saving people's life at a scale within the UK. Thank you very much.
Wow. Very, very impressive. And Ali, I saw some people taking pictures. Is there any way that you can share the slides, or is there?
The slide is proprietary. So,
okay.
But
no, it's also an answer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, for the purpose of this talk, they are okay to take a picture. But in terms of advertising beyond,
all right.
Yeah, thank you. Don't use AI anymore on that.
I got you. Also from the UK is your chair co-person sitting on the same sofa from the University of Bradford, Professor Tilo Aldabi. Same goes for you. Could you please share your thoughts on this topic?
Okay, I had a presentation, or
yes, and by the oneness of technology, we just snap our fingers and. There it is.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to congratulate my friend Lampros for the auspicious scientific rank that he has achieved. And also I'd like to thank The Hague University of Science and Technology. This is a fantastic venue and all the good things that they have actually shared with us. I'm not a technical person in terms of analytics, so I'm not going to go into coding and programming. And on the other hand, I'm not a medical doctor where I can go into the disease, but actually I want to represent the normal person on the street, how they can actually benefit from the trend of AI. Right. Okay, my presentation is fine. I wish you consulted me about the picture, but I've got more white hair, I've got glasses. I will just pass that very quickly. Like I said, from the University of Bradford, it's just near Leeds. It's a highly dense area, very deprived, and will benefit from a lot of research in that area. But for today, I'm just going to look at what do we need from AI as people on Earth, globally and locally. I can see there's 3 main themes that actually, I don't want to scare people, but Earth is actually in a very critical situation in terms of food, health, and environment. And if there are any priorities for the utilization of AI analytics and methods, I think it should focus on these 3 issues. And I'm very happy to see there is a lot of work that's being done in the health aspect and the medical aspects, as I saw from this university and my friend here from the UK. But I think also food requires a lot of focus on environment. So from the University of Bradford perspective, we have recently gained a project for developing a master in applied artificial intelligence for deprived people and underrepresented communities that will give them scholarship to join the armies of AI people, but from an applied perspective rather than code building. In health, we have developed a number of simulation methods that actually linking to AI methods. And we are working also, we have a digital health innovation. We are allowing mid-tech, like small medical and health companies to come and try their work over there. From environment, I was working with Lamfros in a long-term European grant, Designscapes, and that's also allowing small companies to develop AI innovative ideas for the support of people and the surrounding society. I mean, I was asked, what are the enable factors for AI? I think there are so many things, but I'll only talk about the first point, which is data management. I think a lot of people say that when they start writing papers about AI, there is a huge amount of data. But in the second sentence, they say, we don't have any data. So I think the data is there, but the challenge is, I know there are so many methods for AI, but I think the challenge is actually manipulating the data and preparing it for having a more efficient AI. And the last point I'm just in this slide is end speed, which is artificial intelligence is no substitute for intelligent thinking. So the human intelligence thinking is actually very important. AI is not a replacement, but it's actually an extension of human intelligence. I think we should think about food, health, environment. These are the main things that we need to look at because they're actually very critical, and we need to create thematic research in this area. And the first point, making use of existing technologies. One of the issues is, I'm trying to do some work with my mother continent in Africa, and people say, okay, it's very hard to transfer the technology, and AI very sophisticated. It was mentioned earlier, 40% of the globe, they don't have access to internet. But in Africa, on average, everybody will have 2 mobile phones and maybe 2G or 3G. So these are sources of data. So we need to think creatively with our existing data before trying to think of actually developing a very complex technology. One of the issues, I think, the challenges of AI is actually over-expectation. I think sometimes we think it's actually going to solve our worlds and our problems, and we think more and more about what it can do. When the fax machine invented, I think probably in the 50s or so, I wasn't born then, but people thought, if you put a cup of coffee in the fax machine, it will come out on the other side. That was their expectation. It didn't do that. So I think we need to be careful of what they expect. I think security is an issue. I think stuff like deep, I was watching a program about security and hacking, things like deep fake. Right now, your identity will be stolen, and you yourself will be stolen because you could be saying something that you never said, but some people actually steal your iris scan and create another you. So we need to be careful what we wish for. And I think we need to think of some of these storing capacities and some of that. And thank you very much. I hope it didn't take a long time.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. And just one question to clarify, because you are a professor of business analytics. Would you say that AI is a specific kind of analytics?
Yes, I mean, AI is, it's not, it used to be a chapter in a book about analytics, but I think now it cuts across all types, of analytics, the descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. But I think more and more we'll actually want to use AI for the descriptive part, because, like I said, we're having tsunami of data. in different forms and shapes. So AI sometimes, instead of giving us a solution, we probably want from it to make us understand the data before we even make a decision. I think humans are capable of making decisions, but it's the lack of understanding what is coming to them that sometimes could be the challenge.
Well put. Thank you so much. Moving on, we have Dr. Davor Olic. He is the Chief Operating Officer at the International Research Center on Artificial Intelligence. Thank you for joining us. Do you have slides? Or
I'm going to skip my slides.
You're going to skip the slides?
Yeah.
Well, that is...
okay, Mr. Chair.
You're very brave.
I don't want to bore you with slides. I'm sorry. I'm not, they're very packed.
Could you hold the microphone up a little bit?
Sorry.
Okay. So, tell us, are you excited about AI and data science for society?
Was thinking of this question, and then I got the slides going, and then I just realized that it's just too much to put into slides.
Yeah,
but
we've all been there.
But the idea is the following. I think now that the new chair is essentially in the UN family, right? It has this feeling, if I go back to the UNESCO point, why exactly UNESCO, right? So we're running a UNESCO Center in Artificial Intelligence, or should I say it's under the auspices of UNESCO. With our colleague Banu, we conceptualized it, I think maybe 3 years ago, and got it running 2 years ago. And it's been unbelievable. Just the last 2 years have been so packed that actually for us, not being able to travel because of the pandemic and so on, actually was a good thing. So we could just concentrate on literally replying emails and running projects. If you go to UNESCO in Paris, and you literally can go in a room that has been there for almost like 60, 70 years, and you can see those benches that have been worn out from people coming from all over the planet, right? So the decisions that were made there are just, when you think about it, are just sort of like overwhelming. And even when we talk about the United Nations, we don't really have a feeling of what exactly is it, and what do they do, you know? They're even more virtual than the virtual offices that we have.
Yeah, gotcha.
But somehow this transpires into this identity of society, and you meet people from all over the place. So a UNESCO chair in AI in the Netherlands, the beauty of it is that you literally have a UNESCO chair in AI from Palestine in the room, right? So people from all over the place have an equal amount or intensity of problems that we have here and that have been presented for, let's say, medicine and healthcare. Our job for the last 2 years was try and understand who is literally out there doing what. So we created this because we couldn't do it anywhere, any other way. It's just too complicated and too complex to understand who's who. Obviously, you have the research circles and the communities, and then people know people and so on. But what are the unknown unknowns? So we kind of created this top 100 list, we call it, because we have just no imagination of calling it any other way, right?
Sounds good.
And we created this list, and we asked the communities in AI and sustainable development to apply. And lo and behold, you have people in Kenya solving water management problems with satellite imagery, and then you have people in Slovenia solving water management problems with news items and text and analysis of that. So you have literally the same problems being addressed with two absolutely different AI or machine learning methods. But somehow there's still colleagues that they don't know each other, right? So how do you connect one person from Kenya with the Slovenian, and then someone in London, and then someone in whichever place? And that is the beauty of having this label of UNESCO. You can literally have a mandate for doing that, and you can approach stakeholders, and you can work with them and speak with them. And what we've learned, for example, in Sub-Saharan Africa, a lot of people don't know that, but the communities in Sub-Saharan Africa are unbelievable. People are solving problems which is always localized, right? AI problems are always, well, the majority of them is local. You have all of the African languages being digitized now. And we in Europe, we had that problem, right? And we solved it with machine translation and
Right.
whichever data sets and so on. And Banu was one of the first people funding through UNESCO, which is funny enough, right? Data sets in whichever languages, Igbo and so on. And by the way, I never knew those are languages that have 350 million speakers, right? So the market is enormous.
So a big part of your job is connecting people, connecting
connecting
projects.
people, and there's probably, we can probably find even a joke, like how many UNESCO chairs in AI does it take to fix a light bulb, right? Probably a network of them.
Right.
So that's why we created a network of, centers of excellence in AI and sustainable development. And lo and behold, again, 40, 60 institutions, and the new chair is part of that network.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is that I think the added value of this particular chair is not just for the Netherlands and the university, but it goes beyond. And it's not just, thankfully, it's not just reports and, can you add a sentence here and a chapter there? It's literally moving things and creating projects and connecting with industry and so on. And that is actually the good thing, the global perspective. And I would also, again, welcome you in the UN and UNESCO family of chairs and networks and so on.
Awesome. Good job. And big round of applause, yeah. And that without slides, can you imagine? Right? No, good job. Thank you. Appreciate it. Esther de Jonge, Dr. Esther de Jonge.
Thank you.
I saw you in the movie, by the way.
Yeah.
That was you.
Exactly.
How do you want to approach this? Do you have slides? Do you have videos?
No, I only have 2 slides. Oh, I see that Hani already brought them up.
Yes, tremendous.
Thank you very much. Well, I was preparing this pitch together with Lampros, and in his inaugural speech, he already mentioned the importance of data quality. And when I think of the last few years and data quality, I come again back to the COVID registration data.
Right.
Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So I would like to tell you a little bit more about a very small, local COVID data issue. So I chose this example because it's really a local issue, and I believe the solution might be global. What you see here is a map, obviously, of the southwest of the Netherlands. And I know we have some international guests here. So what you see in the bottom is the border between the Netherlands and Belgium. And that's important for this story. Because what you see here is the darker the color, the higher the testing rate. So the amount of people that got a COVID test. And for the people that are a little bit familiar with the Netherlands, the first thoughts were the parts of the Netherlands where most people lived, so with a high population density, the testing rate was very high in that areas as well. So it's very easy to come to misinterpretation basically of the data. So what people thought is, it sounds very reasonable, like a high population density that must have hampered the social distancing, what was an advice here in the Netherlands. So that was one of the main conclusions that was drawn from this picture. But then again, these data are collected in the Netherlands by the local health services of our municipalities. So for the Dutch-speaking people, they might know this as the GGD. They collect these data, and they have their own data scientists and epidemiologists. So they have been digging a bit further into these data. And what they observed is basically 3 things. That close to the border, the people that live close to the border, they didn't have a proper test facility at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And so this graph is, I should have mentioned that before, it's from the beginning of the pandemic. And so when we were talking a bit deeper, we were digging a bit deeper into this, we noticed that people wanted to get a test. They simply went to Belgium, which is it's very close for people living in the south of the Netherlands. But then apparently we didn't make any appointment with our neighboring countries about exchanging test results. And the second problem is that although we might have known who was tested, we have in the Netherlands 2 types of test locations. So one of them was facilitated, it was a governmental test location, so that was facilitated by the health services of the municipalities. But then, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, there were all kinds of other test locations. So, for example, the hospitals or nursing homes, or even a lot of commercial parties that offered a test. And then we have a registration policy in the Netherlands that only the positive test results needed to be reported. So in that case, I wouldn't say that the conclusions that were drawn from this graph are necessarily not true. It's simply the data quality is insufficient to prove that they are true. So Hani, could you go? Yeah, thank you very much. So I think for a part of this problem, there's a global solution. I think we really should start exchanging data with our neighboring countries. And maybe even more important, so at the beginning of the pandemic, we should have thought about one single registration system that is similar for, well, at least neighboring countries. So I think altogether that might help to protect all our citizens all over the world better to, in this case, infectious diseases. So it was a very small example compared to the great stories that the other people here told, but yeah, this was my contribution. And of course, Lampros, I'm very proud of you, so congratulations.
Awesome. Great job, Esther. Speaking of which, could you also do me the honor to wrap up this panel, because you were the last person to speak, so you've listened to the others. Please
Definitely. Well, I was really surprised by the amount of basically stakeholders or people that we try to serve or that we collaborate with. So we ranged from, I think, patients, I've heard maybe clients, until even the normal man on the street, as you nicely illustrated it. And still, because we are serving so many different parties or stakeholders, we suffer from the same issues, I think. And I was really triggered by one of your quotes, saying, if we cannot, if I quote it correctly, if we cannot measure it, why bother managing it? I think we work a lot together with municipalities, and I would almost say we experience rather the other way around. So people really feel we need to manage something, but please, could somebody tell me what to measure? So that was what I picked up in this discussion mainly.
Yes, well, with these wise words comes an end to this panel discussion. Let's give them a big another round of applause. Thank you very much. And I know it was way too short, but I promise you that we have a coffee break coming up later on, and then people will know where